Hey, what's up everybody? Bdf 44 coming at you with another day video. Alright, it's a better day today as far as the weather's concerned. It's still a little nippy, but nothing like yesterday. Yesterday was 48 degrees. That's crazy for North Hollywood. Today it's probably like 65, something like that, 64. Windy as all heck, but nothing too serious to where we can't get out and enjoy ourselves. So that's what I'm gonna do. Try to make up for all of these days that I've had where I ain't been able to get this walking exercise that is so important to my whole get down these days. So it's been what, 4 days since I've actually been able to get out, probably longer than that since I've been able to go to Hollywood or LA, and been stuck over here pretty much. And to be honest with you, I still got a lot to do that would probably have kept me in the house, but I am not going to adhere to that right now. I know I gotta watch highlights for the Phoenix Suns game tomorrow, which is gonna be at like noon 30, 12:30. So, you know, that is essential to what it is I'm trying to accomplish. I likely have to get up early tomorrow to accomplish that video. Since the game is so damn early, if I do the video the normal time I normally do, it means it's probably going to be not enough time for people to watch it and watch the game. It's going to be outdated before anybody actually sees it. So I may just get up in the morning early and just do that video before I even do all the stuff I normally do. And so that's really what the plan is to just, you know, try to keep up with everything. I'll go home tonight, probably do my 100s exercise, and then watch highlights of the Phoenix game while I eat. So I guess that's how I'll do it. But yeah, man, I just feel pretty good as it pertains to everything that I have going on. So far so good with the back-to-backs, Lakers schedule and all of that I've been complaining about. So, you know, it's the second leg of the back-to-back start tomorrow, and we'll have to do homework on the Spurs tomorrow night, or I'll just watch both teams highlights today somehow, but I don't really feel like doing that. So probably do one today and then one tomorrow after Bible study. I guess that's how I'll set it up. So whatever, that's not important to you guys, but as you can see, I'm trying to plan this out, man, to make sure I have everything I got to do. Also did did a playlist last night. The K-list 411 is complete. I haven't done the art for it or listened to it, so I gotta find time to do that as well. So, you know, it's just is what it is. But I did not want to stay in that apartment today, that unit rather. I didn't know. I've been stuck to this place for what, 4 days, 5 days straight, with all this crap that I had going on, and the weather being as bad as it was just like, man, no, let me get out today. I don't care how much I have to do. Nothing's more important to me than getting the walk in that my body's been so comfortable having in this side of town. So that's what's up, man, getting that. Hope you guys can hear me because the wind's blowing so hard. It can tend to affect the sound. So yeah, man, but that's what's up. I like the playlist I did last night. I did it like around 12 midnight. So I didn't actually get to sleep till like 3:30 a.m. And unfortunately, it was a good thing I wasn't knocked out, because the child that screams was having a screaming fit last night. I thought that child was homeless. I told you guys that I thought they were outside. They're not. They're in the room next to me. So that's why it sounded like it was coming from outside with the homeless people, because they're on the other side of the wall. So that kid was going crazy last night, screaming and hollering at 3:30 in the damn morning. It was ridiculous. But I wasn't sleepy. That was the thing. I was actually able to miss most of that fit. God knows how long that child was doing that. I just realized they were doing it when I took off my headphones, and they kept it up well until about 4 o'clock in the morning. So that was horrible, man. I guess it's like some sort of Tourette's syndrome or something. But I mean, it's really hard. So I can only imagine how difficult it is for the child. But for the parents, you can hear the parent going crazy in there. telling the kid to be quiet. It can't be quiet. If it could be quiet, it would. So it was just, it's tough, man. I can only imagine that's probably why they don't have their own place. Probably got kicked out of any apartment. Nobody want to, you know what I mean? I don't know how old the child is. Probably no older than like 5 or 6 years old. But if you got a child screaming at the top of their lungs at all hours of the night. And the sad thing is, you don't hear them until nighttime. That's when they start that. It's like they have night terrors or something. It's horrible, man. So I said a prayer for that child last night, and you know, hopefully the Lord can help them with whatever would be there for them to overcome that or manage that or just be able to sleep at night, man. It's terrible. So yeah, man, that was really unfortunate. I've been sleeping with the window closed because it's been cold as hell, but also to keep the sounds out from the homeless encampment outside. But if you listen to some of my videos in this room, you're gonna hear some of the people going crazy and outside of my window. That one girl loved to cuss. And, I mean, she only has one mood, and it's mad. I don't know what her mental illness is called, but there's a girl outside of my window. She only has one mood, and that's angry. She is angry and cussing somebody out anytime you hear her. That's all. It's never anything positive. It's always her cussing somebody out. She don't know no other mood. It's just pissed off. And I don't know who's out here pissing her off. Like, who is doing what to this person that makes her so angry all the time? Obviously, she's out on the street, so she has every reason to be upset. But that's not just what this is. That's her natural personality. She's an angry, fussing person. And so, you probably heard her a couple times if you've been listening to my videos over the last 8 days. And it's rather negative, to be honest. Just a negative person, man. It's kind of funny because she's always angry, but never, like, the more you hear her anger, the more you realize it's empty most of the time. Like, she's fussing. She's not necessarily ready to hurt anyone or do anything. At first, when I first heard her, I'm like, yo, this woman gonna hurt somebody one of these days. And maybe she will, but most of the time, the people around her just shrug her off, and she just mumble and walk away after she finished fussing, and she still come back around. It's like, the more I hear her, the more I realize most of her fussing ain't nothing real. It's just her fussing. And she sit down, you know what I mean, eat, and walk away, mumble something. Like, that's just who she is. She's always angry, always ornery, always fussing. So, yeah, man, hey, I gotten used to it, believe it or not. But at night, about 3 nights ago, there was a night where it was 2 of them, 2 women, and it seemed like they were on shifts. One woman could not stop talking for about 4 hours. She literally was speaking in Spanish to whomever she was talking to for about 4 hours straight. From like 9 p.m. all the way through, nah, it was more than that. I don't think she shut up till about 2:30 in the morning. Maybe about from like 9 p.m. to 2:30 in the morning, all you could hear was the tone of her voice. No stoppage. Absolutely no stoppage. And she was talking to some people. There were 2 people out there she was speaking to, but like she was the only one doing any talking. And then she walked away and another one came up and yapped all the way till 6 in the morning. It was the most challenging night I've had trying to sleep since the day I had to spend the night at the hostel. Because I'm already an introvert, somewhat naturally antisocial. I don't really like groups of people too often. Being around, like, hearing that outside my window makes me uncomfortable a lot of times. So this room has challenged me in that way, in a major way. But that night, man, it was rough. It was rough. It was very, very taxing on my brain and my spirit. I was not at all happy with those people. And I was only able to sleep for like maybe 2.5 hours because of it. So it was one of those things where it's like, I was trying to manage, do I want to close my window? Obviously closing the window is what makes most logical sense. But I'm someone who doesn't, because I live in ventilation 100% of the time and have been for years, even before I got over here, I never actually closed my window for nothing. I prefer ventilation over whatever comes with not having it. And so I end up getting migraines if I don't have air in the room I'm in. That's what I've come to condition myself for. So it's like, all right, I know that about myself. So it's like, I'm not going to be able to sleep any damn way. If I close the window, I'm likely not going to be sleeping well either. But the past 2 nights, because of the cold and because of those people outside my window, I've been like, yeah, let me just go ahead and just deal with it. After that night I had, I wasn't going to sit there and let another night like that happen. So, and as a result, I wake up with headaches and go to sleep with headaches and have headaches all night. So last night I said, you know what, I'm just going to keep the window open. And there wasn't too much talking going on because it was so damn cold. So yeah, that was what it was. But yeah, the easy solution is obviously to close your window. But for me, it's like, it becomes a headache conversation. If I don't get that air ventilation, it's almost like you closing one of my nostrils. That's what it feels like. So I don't know, man. I'm just conditioned the way I am. And even when it's raining, I don't really close my window. I don't close my windows. Even when I'm just silly like that, to be honest with you. So yeah, man, that's just how that goes. Feels good to be out here walking, man. But you know, I have a newfound understanding of just, you know, how it can kind of be, the homeless environment and the community, and the understanding that people know one another out here. In a lot of cases, they communicate a lot, and you know, it's a lot of extroverts out here in the homeless community in North Hollywood. These people like to convene together and talk their way through their circumstances, which is not a personality trait that I have. People do that. Like, strangers just walk into spaces where other strangers are and just communicate. You know, apparently that's a normal human trait that I just don't have. And I'll be hearing it even in the break room, because my room is next to the break room as well. So I got noise coming from the break room, and then I got noise coming from the outside, and I got noise coming from the other room with the child. So it's just noise everywhere at all times. Extremely challenging for my brain, man. I am an introvert. I don't like people like that. I'm telling y'all, I don't. And it just is what it is. I'm not the guy that's going to be sitting around talking to strangers, just feeding off of energy and talking. I don't do that. That's not who I am. And a lot of times, you know, particularly in certain jobs that I've had, I've made people uncomfortable because of it. I think a lot of people naturally equate being alone to being sad. No, I'm more sad when I'm uncomfortable around all of y'all. I'm happy by myself. And so that's what it is. Just, you know, it's a whole nother experience for me, having been in this particular room, with just how comfortable people are with just shooting the S word, so to speak. You know what I mean? Just homeless people, workers, everybody just like, they just come together and laugh together. And it's very social, it's very extroverted, and it's extremely uncomfortable for me, man. I do not like it. It irritates me so much. And that's what comes naturally to me. It's very strange. I know that's strange to a lot of people, especially seeing me on this phone talking to all of you guys, but that's just, I'm not like that. I don't do that. I'm not political. I'm not social. You know, I don't particularly like those things. I think I equate a lot of group activities and stuff like that to some of the times when I was teased by groups of people as a young kid. That's kind of what I equate that to. Come together and be judged by others. That's kind of what that means to me. Because a lot of times when people come together, in times of my childhood, some of my most traumatic social experiences came from groups of people turning their attention to me and making fun of me. Or groups of people turning their attention to me and I'm not comfortable with it for whatever reason. So much of that as a young kid, till I grew to be somebody who didn't like being in social settings like that unless it's surrounded by a bunch of my friends. I like being in one-on-ones with people, though. I'm very comfortable in one-on-one settings. If it's just me and you, I could be comfortable as hell. You bring 3 or 4 people around, and suddenly it's not the same dynamic. I don't find myself consistently comfortable in those spaces. Sit me down with my therapist, I'm fine. You bring 5 people in the room, and suddenly I'm out of my element. I just don't like it. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing online too. I don't like Zoom meetings. It's the same thing for me. It's not a fan of that. People in groups, I don't like it. Now that's not 100% consistent. It's not necessarily consistent, because there will be people who tell you, yeah, we had a group setting with B, it was fine. Yeah, we sat around together and stuff like that. Had a group type of interviews for jobs and stuff. They didn't have no problem with none of those. I don't know what the science is. It pertains to my brain, but it's just, as I perceive it, I don't like group settings. I really can't speak to why it's not like that all the time, or what, you know, what moments it wasn't a problem, because I'm sure there's been plenty in this 40 years of life, but just in general, that's just what I see it as. And so, yeah, man, I just learn about myself a little more. Think back on circumstances where I kind of found myself on the outside of, you know, political spectrums with jobs that I had. And it's because I did not politic with people. I think of several jobs that I had that ended up having me on the outs of things. I remember when I worked at Hermes, how uncomfortable I felt in the break room where I had to eat with like 9 or 10 different people I didn't know, because there wasn't nowhere else to eat, and they didn't give us enough time to go to our cars or whatever to eat and come back. We just only had like 15 minutes to eat for lunch or whatever the heck that was. Don't remember exactly how that went, but that's what it seemed like. Maybe it took like 15 minutes to get to the car or something. I don't remember, but you would have to sit in the break room and eat with people, and I just remember how uncomfortable I would be in those settings. Hated it. I loathed every part of that. My worst part of my job was lunchtime, because I had to sit with those people. It's the God's honest truth, and they weren't bad people. I never gave them a chance to find out. You know, it was that kind of thing. I remember the time I worked at the Park Place condominiums, and I believe it was Central City, name of that city. I think that's what that is. And you know, I got along with my guards. I got along with some of those people. But the big boss, I didn't rub elbows with him. And I think it kept me in a space where he looked at me as a threat. And to a point, a lot of what was wrong with me at the time was just immaturity. Now I look back on it, I didn't see it that way then, but now it's like, yeah, a lot of that stuff had to do with my performance. A lot of that performance issues had to do with my weed intake. At the time, I would smoke weed to no end, didn't have any idea what I was smoking at the time. I would just buy new weeds every time. As I told you guys, I used to do a lot, but this was earlier on. And so I would get heavily faded and then just come to work and just be poor on my performance, letting trucks through the gate without vetting them. Stuff that my job was literally to not do. And I just didn't take life seriously as it pertains to that job. I show up, I do my little duties, and that's it. But when it came to certain things like vetting people and all this type of stuff, I was not good at it. So I think a lot of what, when I look back on it, just had to literally do with my performance being crappy at a specific thing that they kept telling me not to mess up. But it was like I had so many different things to balance at the time. There's different duties that when a truck come through, it just, that whatever was wrong with my stupidity at the time wouldn't allow for me to go through the proper protocol for that particular problem. So when they assessed whether or not to replace me with another guard who was very chummy with everybody, who politics very well with them, he was doing poor in his department, but they didn't want to fire him because of the politics of the situation. So what they were going to do was move me, who wasn't performing well in the security, to his spot and keep him. Instead of firing him, they gave him my job and gave me his job. But I'm not a maintenance person. Like, I barely cleaned my own apartment. I definitely wasn't going to be any good at the maintenance duties. But, you know, what should have likely happened was they should have fired him for being bad. They probably should have fired me too. But they call themselves allowing us to keep our jobs. But I didn't perceive myself as doing a bad job. I just thought that because I didn't politic with them, that ultimately was being shoved aside, which had I think some truth to it. But now that I've gotten older, I look at it a little differently. I don't think that's actually what it was all the way. I think it was a combination of both my poor performance and his ability to communicate with them and get along with them and be chummy with them and all that. And just kind of be outspoken in regards to like just being more of a people person in that environment than I was willing to be. And so that's what it was, man. I just assess that and say, well, that if I would have been a bit more like him, maybe I'd have had a bit more leverage in keeping my own position. But that was one of the situations. And then another time was my last position at Santa Monica, where I just think some of the guards are starting to get a little irritated that I used to be a loner, while they would walk around together and be with one another constantly. Especially when it came to nighttime patrols and stuff like that. It was strength in numbers, of course. I didn't want to really be around anybody, man. I was unhappy in my own life at the time, and I just wanted to be alone. I didn't like the job. I didn't dislike the guys, but I don't like the settings of being around too many people too often. So it was like that kind of left me ostracized with the guards. And some of the people who I thought got along with me started looking at me as somebody that they didn't trust. And so that just left me in a space where that job wasn't for me. So it's like, that type of normalcy for my head, being a loner, doesn't work in group settings, because people need you. They need to feel comfortable around you. They need to know you're a good guy. They need to know you're not stealing from them or gonna snitch on them or whatever the heck people worry about. And so the more they're around people, the more comfortable they're gonna feel naturally as human beings are. I don't want to be around. I like my highs and buys and keep it pushing. I'm a loner, so it's like I never give people an opportunity to trust me, and as a result, they end up pushing me away, or I end up getting myself on the outside of the politics that ultimately would protect me. So that's just what it is, man. I'm a loner. I'm happy that way. I trust my life a lot better without numbers rather than with them. I found myself in groups of people, even with friends. I end up, because I'm with others, going through the worst experiences. You know what I mean? As I told y'all, getting into fights and stuff like that. It only happens when I'm around others, drinking, doing things that others do. By myself, I ain't getting in none of these troubles. These problems happen when I go out. These troubles happen when I'm trying to do what everybody else is doing. So it's like, I just equate my comfort and my safety with being a loner, despite the world and math telling you that strength in numbers. I just think those are not my experiences. Not in the least. And so that's just how it is, man. I think it's allowed me to be wired the way that I am, but my life is somewhat stagnant because it requires you to know people to grow, especially in this city. It's not what you know, it's who you know. Well, if you can't be around people, you don't like being in group settings, you ain't gonna know nobody. So it's hard to elevate. So I think that's what really gets in the way of me. But I'd imagine the Lord wired me the way that he did for a reason. And now that I have a stronger relationship with him, I can start to nestle myself in a position to kind of do what it is he wants me to do, instead of going against what it is he wants me to do or not communicating with him at all, which is what I would do back in those days. A lot of the stuff I did was not involving communicating with God about how to handle things. I believe in God. I say my little prayers, and then I keep walking and do whatever I did. You know, try my best to be a decent person based on his understanding, but he was a distant entity, not one that was very close. And there were times in my life where I was closer to God than other times, but some of the times where I made the most mistakes, I wasn't all that close at all. It was about me making myself comfortable, me indulging in what I chose, and failing to limit those indulgences a lot of times, letting them get completely out of hand. You know, and that's really what it was about. The limitations and discipline came far and in between. You know, I didn't have it. So that's really what I've come to understand. Since a lot of maturity has come over the last, particularly just the last 3 years. A lot of substantial growth that'll help me understand the value in keeping that relationship with God closer, limiting certain things that ultimately I like or want for the betterment of the discipline necessary. And just a lot of stuff, man. Sobriety is a big part of this, obviously. And given that fact that I wasn't very sober for most of the times where I had some of these issues. And, you know, I think a lot of my anxiety issues in groups might have had a lot to do with my weed intake as well. I think that, because I'd imagine the science behind me having the issues that I did had to do with me ultimately smoking a lot of the times and then not feeling comfortable in the presence of others. I don't think I had as many of those issues when I was working at Marina Harbor, for which was a sober era in my life. And when smoking nothing for like a year, I don't remember having some of those issues. So, you know, that equates to it as well. I'm sober now, don't have as many issues with that right now as maybe I've had in the past. So, you know, I think my sobriety is an important part of this equation as it pertains to my anxieties and social issues and whatever group issues I may think I have. And so as I walk past a stimsy building that I walk past every day, I never bought no weed here, man. It's crazy. If you would have told me 3 years ago that I would be walking past all these weed dispensaries and not buying no weed, I would tell you you're obviously not paying attention to Brandon. That's not who that is. I'd have told you that's not who I am. Like, weed was a part of my identity for a good portion of my life. Probably more of it than it wasn't, to be honest with you. I started really getting into weed when I was like 17 years old, probably. First tried weed at 12. Was a full-fledged weed head in most of my 20s and my 30s. Full-fledged. Maybe take a year off once or twice, but the majority of my 30s and my 20s, I was high. Smoking weed as much as I could. All my friends will tell you the same thing. They all tell you that. If my mama were alive, she'd tell you that too. But it just got to a point where, you know, the reaffirmation that it was a problem kept coming back into my life in various times. And, you know, it's not something that I want to indulge in, man. Not anymore. I tried it. Like I said, I had a stint with weed for about a weekend, about maybe 3 weeks ago. And I didn't like it, man. I didn't like it like I used to. I really didn't. I enjoyed doing art off of it. But some of the issues that came with my memory, and maybe it was just a strain. Obviously, some strains are better than others, but I didn't really like getting high, like very recently when I tried it 3 weeks ago or whatever that was. I didn't. And it wasn't like Tendai gave me a lot. He didn't give me so much to roll the whole blunt or nothing. It was just like maybe like 3 bowl hits worth of weed, $5 worth of weed. It did the job, but like the drag feeling that comes after the high is just so undesirable. And that's one of the things I hated about smoking back in the day, which is why I always wanted to smoke, so that I could keep from feeling that too often. You like the high, but you hate the drag. And so for me, the drag was so bad off of what he gave me that it just reaffirmed, like, I'm just not into weed right now in my life. I don't want it. I have no interest in feeling that feeling at all. And so, yeah, man, it's just a lot has changed over the last 2 years. A lot has changed since I got to North Hollywood, man. I'm just in a much more responsible space of mind. My relationship with God is infinitely stronger right now. My desire to stay here with him is extremely strong, and I just kind of want to move forward, man. I'm not really interested in moving backwards. I check with God every day in the morning to make sure that I'm praying for what I'm supposed to be. First thing I think about in the morning is prayer, going to God, man. And because I've done things the wrong way for so long, I'm curious to see what happens when you do things the right way for any length of time. When you do things the right way. I've done things the wrong way, and the Lord has saved me from those problems. Saved me from those consequences. And it's all I've known. What happens when you start doing things the right way for any length of time? In my life, what does that look like? I haven't yet seen the fruit of doing things the right way, but you know, I'm in a space where I'm not really worried about that. I'm just continuing to keep going on the things that I'm doing, the exercise, the art, this channel, and all this stuff. I'm just continuing. I believe that if you continue on the journey of being consistent, you can only get better at what you're doing. I believe that. I've seen that in other people's lives. I've seen that in the production of my own art. I am not an artist as it pertains to being any good at it, but the evolution of my repetition is evident in better pieces that I made and quality of pieces that have been made. Some of the stuff I've been making over the last couple of days has been pretty good, but I guess you could say you raise your floor the more you get at it. You may not raise your ceiling. You may not be able to make the greatest piece of all time, but you can make more quality pieces, more polished pieces, the more reps you give yourself at whatever it is you're doing. In my case, it's art. And so that's really where my most proud is. I guess most of my pride is wrapped up in just being consistent, not necessarily seeing the fruit in anything that I'm doing. It's not coming my way in the form of wealth, or nobody's really paying attention to what I'm doing or whatever, but I know that I'm getting better. And at that point, at some point, me getting as good as I can get will provide some fruit that I maybe don't know is there. And so that's what I'm here to tell all of you guys. Just keep going. It gets frustrating at times trying to figure out how to do what you need to do for yourself. You know, how to overcome wasted time. You know, I've been someone who's been non-productive for many years of my life, getting good at stuff that can't do nothing for me. You know, playing video games for hours at a time, getting good at 2K and stuff. That didn't really yield me enough results because I wasn't doing it in a way that could provide me any wealth or any, you know, I wasn't doing anything within it that would ultimately make me as competitive as professionals. So it's like, you can put in all the hours in the world, but you're not getting that much better. And you're not venturing into spaces where it can make any sense that you continue to put in this many hours. So it was just empty for me. Very empty. Smoking weed and exercise, but you know, it wasn't like I was really doing anything that I could consider really being proud of for a lot of my 30s. Just empty hours trying to make myself as comfortable as possible. And that just, it didn't yield anything. You do things the wrong way for long enough and you just find yourself in a space where you look up and you don't have nothing. You're just here. And that's ultimately what I'm trying to not let be what happens next. It's just like, all right, let's do things the right way. Stay on that for a long time and let that yield me the results that I'm hopeful to see. So that's what I encourage y'all to do as well, man. Just don't worry about what you've wasted. There's a lot of us who wasted a lot of time. We didn't do jack with our 20s, didn't do jack with our 30s, but within the start of my 40s, I'm doing everything that I know I should and just letting it be, man. Letting it be. I don't find myself anywhere I don't need to be as it pertains to my productivity and my mentality, positive thoughts, prayerful thoughts. You know, and that's what it is, just revamping your own internal space so that whether you get a lot or you have a little, your mind is still perceiving yourself as an appreciative person or a blessed person. And that's that balance, man, because a lot of times you ain't gonna get what you want, or you may get a lot and it can make you a worse human being. So just keep that balance and understand that, you know, it's gonna be you keeping your integrity and your consistency in what you're trying to accomplish that ultimately allows for you to look in the mirror and see pride. And that's what I'm hoping to continue to gain. So yeah, man, I appreciate everybody allowing me to, you know, speak this way. And there are a lot of conversations I need to have on this channel. But I think I'll leave this particular video right here. I appreciate everybody for watching Bdf 44. I'm out.